Welcome to Season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In Season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I am delighted to welcome back a previous guest, one of the most listened to episodes I ever recorded with David Spencer Percival, known as DSP. David is the founder of Life Science People, a specialist life science people recruitment firm headquartered in London with offices in LA. They've got over 85 heads. They're only 2.5 years old, started in September 2020. I interviewed David in November 21, where he'd grown to 65 in 11 months. We'd also talked about his story before. He was the founder. It was part of a number of businesses. I believe it was Spencer Ogden that he's most famous for, but he was also involved in other businesses where two of them he'd got to 100 million in growth and over 500 staff. So he knows his stuff. The reason we brought him on this week was to talk about the reality of the recession right now. When we interviewed in November 21, the market was going mega. There was deals going in for fun. It was an easy place to make money. They were growing. By September 22, the whole market changed. He explains how perm fell off a cliff, and it was only because of contract revenue that kept them alive. And they started to swing from a couple of $100,000 a month EBITDA to losing a couple of hundred. He lost 800,000 in 3 months at the end of 2022. They're now seeing a change. There's some positive signs. But David, in this episode, talks about launching the US office just before the recession hit and the impact of that. He talks about how he kept himself sane and focused and positive despite confidence dropping all over the place, how he's managed to work with a whole team of rookies. Bearing in mind, his whole model is based on academy graduates and bringing them through and keeping a lot of these guys and making money in such a tough market. And we also talked about what he sees happening and predictions for the future. So if you're experiencing some difficult times right now at the end of May 2022, 2023, God, I don't know what day it is. But if you are suffering and you're feeling that this, the market's a little bit turbulent, listen to David. You'll get some real quality information that you can action. So enjoy it. Without further ado, David, welcome back to the RAG podcast.
Good to be back, Sean. Good to see you.
I know. 18 months, gone quick.
I can't believe it's been 18 months. In some ways, it's gone quick. In some ways, it's gone really slow.
True. I'm trying to look more like you, David, as you know.
Yeah, I can see you got a new haircut. And,
this is only seven months of hair growth, you see. So in 18 more months, I'll be like Jesus.
That's good look.
How have you been anyway? How's life?
Yeah, life's good. I mean, it's been a fairly challenging time in recruitment terms, but we're battling on. It's not my first rodeo, Sean. I've been through it before.
No, I'm sure. So to set the scene, we had an interview in November 2021.
Yeah.
And at the time, there's no denying the market was probably the best it's ever been. It was bonkers.
Frothy, I think we'll call it.
Yeah. And you guys were, within a year, you'd grown to 65 heads.
Yeah,
you'd seen insane growth, and there's no denying that the horizon was pretty good for not just for you, for everyone. But you guys had really, you talked about how you'd invested, upwards of £1 million in the business. You're on the way to becoming profitable, and it was just becoming, it was an engine starting to build. So do us a favor and take us back to that moment. Before that, just tell us who you are again. So if anyone didn't listen to episode 1, doesn't know David Spencer Percival, who are you and what is the business like? What is Life Science People?
So, well, previously 2 recruitment companies, startup to 100 million, 500 staff, both sold to private equity. Current business set up in life sciences, fairly decent investment from myself. And yeah, hitting a market that was relatively benign with regards to competition. And we went in very hard, very strong, very quickly in what was a very good market.
Yeah. So you launched, what was it, end of 2020?
Yeah, we're 2.5 years in, so I think it was September 2021.
That is a bonkers time to start. In reality, that was.
Well, yeah, it was post-COVID, in between lockups. I mean, it was pretty tricky time to start. Good time looking back.
Well, I remember. Look, we talked about it in 2021. We went to how you handpicked certain people. You went out and headhunted the best of the best, as you said it, and got them in. I've since been out to your LA and met with Dan.
That's
right.
We had
a good few beers and saw the office, and I couldn't believe his rent. If I'm honest, I think he was telling me it was like $7,500 a month rent. And I was like,
we got a good deal.
No, I meant his personal rent, his house rent.
Oh God, it's expensive living
like,
in LA.
Him and his wife, and I think he's got a little girl or so. They're living in a condo, and it was $7,500 a month rent.
I know, LA's expensive.
Fucking hell! I was like, wow, that put me off. I think living in LA, but so where's the business at right now? And then let's go back to
so we're about 85 going to 100 now, so relatively pedestrian growth since last time. I mean, against the backdrop of quite a fast recruitment recession that hit. I think if we take it back to probably September, I think that's when all the indicators was the market was going to take a bit of a dip. See, up until that point, the trajectory was rocket ship. And then once you see all those indicators coming in, I mean, you have to work fairly fast into, making sure your business is ready for a bit of a downturn. I mean, when I look back, it's interesting, flying high through that summer, opened Los Angeles, put $1 million into it. And then by September, it was very clear, very quickly, that there'd been this sort of massive overhiring post-COVID, resulting in a lot of wage inflation. And then suddenly all the tech companies started to shed like hundreds of thousands of jobs. I think everybody got really nervous and sort of stopped hiring and tried to digest all this enormous amount of hiring that they'd done. Yeah. And of course, the knock-on effect is instantly into a recruitment market. And you just see all the indicators, all your KPIs, perm gets hit, the jobs start to go down, the time to fill gets longer, the percentage of fill rate goes down. It's all there, People aren't moving because they're a bit worried about the market. Salaries aren't getting the big wage inflation they were getting. It was all there to see. So if you see it, it's how quickly you react to it. That's the trick.
Right. So let's go back then. So you mentioned the US, and so going into, let's say, January 22, if you remember. Start of last year.
Yes.
What did the business look like in terms of like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we were going.
What were your plans for that year?
So the first year's turnover, which was the year before, was about 7 million, and then we finished on about 17 million on the second year.
Wow! And
even this year, I mean, we're gonna comfortably hit 22, 23 million turnover. Fees are going to go from sort of 7s to 10s. We had budgeted for 12, but I think everyone had to just rebudget and reconsider what they were doing, and just kind of like flatten the curve a bit as we went into certainly a more difficult market. And, just take a bit of a breath, really, because you can't just keep putting your foot on the pedal if the market isn't sustaining it. In a good market, you push. When it starts to get a bit more challenging, you have to kind of like take a bit of stock, really. And that's exactly what we did.
But you mentioned that you had you have a strategy, don't you, for like?
I do.
I forget how many hires you have a quarter. Like there was like a quarterly grad intake.
Well, at the moment, we're hiring 15 a quarter, and then as you go through the years, you do 15 every 2 months, then 15 every month, and 15 every 2 weeks. It's a flywheel that gets you to 500 people in a sort of 5 to 7 year period. But if there is a recruitment recession in that period, you adjust. And fundamentally, it sets you back a year. Any kind of like wobble in the market, but it just puts you back. which is a shame because, you're flying, but you have to have the market behind you.
So why did you start the US? It took us back to when the market was still positive. We'll get to
Yes.
the recession in a minute, but
Yeah.
pre-recession chat, early 22, things are good. What was your horizon for the year?
Well, the thought behind it was, it appeared very clearly to us that there was a huge amount of life sciences on the west coast of America, more, East Coast. This were life science hubs really in Boston and New York, and going down to Miami. But a lot of business was being done in California, and so we thought, this could be our entry into a market. The fees were bigger. There was a lot of successful people, and actually UK companies doing quite well over there. So we felt we needed to be in the market. We were flying high. We're making really good profits. We're on track to make a couple of million EBITDA. So it was the right time. Looking back, it wasn't the right time, but at the time we did it, it was the right decision to make. Yeah. The problem is we entered that US market, took a load of people from the UK, which sort of left a bit of a hole there anyway, put them into a US market just at the time it started to go. But, the choice is you either pull back from that or you continue. And I think my feeling was it was a risk to continue, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And timing wasn't great. In America, you've got sort of Thanksgiving that carries on into Christmas and then the new year. It's not a great time to start up a business. So we had a lot of forces against us, and we had some pretty tricky times. I mean, we were pumping, a couple of $100,000 a month over to America. But now, we spent $1 million. We've made about $1.5 million in fees, and also it's unfunded as well. In the UK, you get an ID line, you draw down on your invoices. You don't have that in America. No one funds you until you start to get some history of trading. So it's all unfunded, wrong time of the market, but we've managed to trade through it. And we're actually last 2 months have been profitable in the US. But yeah, it was touch and go, really tricky.
What goes into setting up a US office? Like, how?
Oh my God,
wants to do it.
It's torture. I mean, the first thing you have to do is you have to create the company. You have to apply for an investment visa. So if you get an investment visa, you put $1 million into America, they give you 10 or 12 visas that are really easy to get for expats to go over. There's a lot of legal setting up bank accounts. I mean, it's utter torture. It takes about anywhere between 3 to 6 months to set up. Then you have to do all the packages of the people going. Then you have to get them in country. You have to lend them money for deposits, cars. I mean, it's pretty full on. And then you start trading with nothing, no clients, no database, no office.
Did you have any? Yeah. Did you have any clients that you'd done a few things with from the UK? Or
we had, yeah. I mean, we had a bit of action there, but not masses. But the market was, absolutely white hot over there when we hit it.
Yeah, I bet.
I've been over there 2 or 3 times to interview locals. Many $1 million a year billers over there in our sector. Very highly paid though. I mean, they're really, really well paid over there because it's expensive to live in LA.
The graduate salaries are like,
yeah. So it was strategically the right thing to do. I'm not sure the timing was particularly clever, but we're there now. And we're established and we're cracking on.
When it comes to the US, how much support did you need to do it, and what did you get? How did you go out and do it? Did you get is a consultancy you use or anything like that?
Yeah, you outsource a lot of the heavy lifting on the legals and the setups and stuff. I mean, you need a broker that does all of that for you. I mean, but my FD Brad had worked in America and set up companies over there. I'd set up the Spencer Ogden offices in America, so you have knowledge in house. But there's an awful lot of legals and finance stuff you have to go through. It's not easy. It's relatively complex and it's bloody expensive.
I don't doubt that. It's one of those things, the US market, right? It's full of stories in the UK from people that say, go out there and you just print money, you just double your billings.
You can do that. It's also a gravy for UK recruiters.
Yeah, true. But they say, $250,000 biller here does $500,000, $600,000 there by just moving, just by being in a different place. Would you agree with that?
Well, the fees are much higher. The average fee over there is $30,000. The average fee here is probably half that.
Yeah.
However, they're very well paid. A graduate in the US is sort of $65,000 to $70,000 a year. A graduate here is £25,000 a year. It's a massive difference. Also, they're split between 180 recruiters and BD. our model is 360. We're hustlers in this country. Over there, it's a very, it's almost like an HR job. So there are some idiosyncrasies that you have to understand. But yes, the market is big. They don't mind paying big fees, big percentages. It's there, but the expense comes with it. So it's not, if you only look at one side of it, you go, yes, the land of milk and honey, but it's quite costly.
So if you're a recruiter, going out there, you'll get a good salary, you'll do big fees, you'll get good comms. Go and do it. But if you're
absolutely,
the weather's brilliant. The weather's fucking brilliant. When it comes to that 360 and 180 argument, then that the way it's set up, did you go out there and mirror the way you work here, or did you?
Well, you can do a hybrid. At the end of the day, UK recruiters predominantly are 360 recruiters, and arguably the best recruiters in the world. I mean, they're real hustlers. In the States, you have a BD job and you have a delivery job, and it's very, very defined and very well trodden path. But you can do a hybrid, and that's what we sort of tend to do in America. But as you build to scale, you are much more building to their model than your model. So in the beginning, to get things going, to get you started, your expats are they generate cash a lot quicker. Yeah. Over time, you are definitely, you have clients facing and you have candidate.
Makes sense. So got the US off the ground around the summertime of 2021.
Yeah.
When was the earliest? Can you go back to the earliest sign the market was turning?
Yeah, September.
And was it internal or was it external conversation? Where did you first spot the reality of change?
I spotted it, and all my crew thought I was completely insane. I said, "It's happening." They went, "No, it's fine. It's great." I said, "I can see, because I track KPIs so carefully that any drop at the front end of all your KPIs, so contact, clients, jobs, and then you see it stretch from jobs to interview, from interview to placement. I can see it probably a couple of months before other people can, because I've been doing it for such a long time. It's just intrinsic. And then you have to persuade everybody else that this is real. Therefore, you've gone from a candidate-driven market to a client-driven market. But this one, I have to tell you, Sean, this was fast. Yeah. I mean, this just went like that. And across all markets as well. It wasn't just life sciences is fairly resilient.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Tech was hit hard, fintech or something like that. It's tough. But when you see it, it's not seeing it, it's what you do about it.
Yeah.
So you have to realign the entire staff, make them understand this is not the market you were in. This is a new world. And some people haven't been recruited through a recession. It takes 4, 5, 6, 7 years to go through a dip. But when you hit it, you just have to act really quick and seeing it first, then reacting to it. And then the real trick is how you get out of it and invest and grow on the bit that's going up, which arguably
one of the biggest things that everyone said in the last 6 months is, last 10 months probably, is that, look, our industry is full, and your business will be even more so because of the way you hire, is full of people without the experience pre-boom. So they've not had the time or the experience or the need to go and do BD and build those skills. I'm actually running a session next Tuesday on about how LinkedIn through BD can be massively impacted.
Yeah.
Because it's just so desperate right now.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at what you sat there in September, seeing the signs. You've got to convince people it's changing, which I imagine is more your senior leadership layer.
That's the whole staff. It's the whole floor. Yeah, I mean,
you've got people who don't know what that means anyway. If they've not been in recruitment, your business isn't even old enough to have had the experience before.
I was very specific to the entire sales floors. What is going to happen? It will not be as easy to do deals. You're going to have to work harder, smarter, faster. You're going to have to create more urgency. You're going to have to find new clients. You're going to have to understand that all those easy deals you were doing, and let's face it, it was really, I wouldn't say any idiot can make money in recruitment back then, but more or less. It was an easy market. There were lots of jobs and there were lots of candidates because it's post-COVID. So it was like a golden age. When that turns, it's just explaining to people, this job isn't easy. And more importantly, if you trade through a bad market, you become a really good recruiter. You're really, really good. You're really seasoned. You know what the job entails and you can capitalize on the upside. But it's not for everybody. You know, we lost people along the way who just said, oh, this is just not what I thought it would be. This is too tough. So when the pressure gets going and everybody says, oh, this is not as easy as I thought it would be, you know, deals dropping, offers dropping, candidates turning it down, not getting enough jobs on. I mean, you know, it happens fast. Some people just can't cut it. That's fine. You know, I get it. But all you get left with is a core team that know what we're doing, know what the market is, and they battle and trade through it. And that, when you come out the other side, is your core management team.
Are you spending hours on LinkedIn and cold outreach and want more business coming to you over your competition? Well, if you're the founder or leader of a recruitment agency, here's what we can do for you. At Hoxo, we'll give you the training, support, and resources to take you from what I call an offline recruiter, reliant on posting jobs and sending in-mails to open up new customers, ultimately looking like every other recruiter on LinkedIn, to being an online recruiter, being seen by over 25,000 relevant people, driving a 200% minimum increase in engagement on your profile, and seeing daily lead lists from LinkedIn that you can follow up with in 6 weeks' time. And if you don't perform, you don't pay. Now, why can we make such a bold, results-driven promise like this? Well, it's simple. There's two reasons. Firstly, whilst I've been building the RAG podcast, we've actually done what we say we'll do for our clients. In less than 2 years, we actually built a business generating from 0 to over 1 million views per month on LinkedIn, leading to multi-million-pound revenues with a sales team of me plus 2 people, without making a single outbound cold call. Second is our track record. Not only have we done it ourselves, but we've helped over 350 agencies and over 4,000 consultants do it as well. It all in the last 3 years. Now, if that sounds of interest to you, click the link associated to this episode and we can book a call and tell you how we can help. Right, let's get back to the show. So when it comes to those juniors then, is there any more, and again, I know you're probably not as involved in all the tactics, but like, what did you guys do to ensure that these guys have the skills to do it? Because you'd pick your seniors you'd expect, but the juniors, what training or advice did you give them?
It's all training. You know, they go through an academy, but the trainers would then deployed away from academies into the sales floor to coach people how to work in a difficult market. And that's all you can do. Even so, some people won't make it. And you have to lower your standards a little bit, you know. And during this time, by the way, you know, you're eating money. I mean, I know many recruitment companies that were making 500,000 a month EBITDA dropping to minus 200K a month very quickly because perm just collapsed. Yeah. And then they're starting to, you know, unless you've got a very strong balance sheet, you're sort of struggling a bit, you know, for cash, as will any company going through any kind of recruitment session that's not massive and works quickly to reduce the costs, because your costs in recruitment fundamentally are your staff costs. Yeah. I mean, you can't change your leases. You can't really change some of the software licenses you've got because you sign up for 2 or 3 years. I mean, all you can do is work with, you know, you either trade your way out with sales or you cut your costs. You try to sort of do a little bit of both. Yeah, both, yeah. But when it comes to the actual people that you've got, then you have to make sure you fast train them into the new market. You know, there's still business there, because don't forget, all your competitors are going through the same thing. And a lot of them are falling by the wayside. Mm. So when you emerge out the other end, you have less competitors, better market, better skilled recruiters, but you are definitely sort of, you know, not the shape you were.
Was there anything specific you got people to do that they weren't doing before? Just really basic, specific stuff?
It was all about finding jobs. You know, at the end of the day, we run a fundamentally simple model. You know, it's a set of KPIs. If you do them consistently is the word. If you do it consistently, you do them all at the same time, you will make money. But if you're missing the front bit, there's no point speaking to candidates all day unless you'll kind of get leads for the market. If you fundamentally haven't picked up jobs and enough of them, I mean, fill rate in any recruitment company, 20 to 25%. Yeah. So you pick up 5 jobs, you're going to fill 1. So if you haven't got 5 jobs, you're not going to do a deal. It's really simple. So it was all about, how do we find the qualified job? I mean, qualification of jobs. I mean, all these sorts of basics that everyone knows. But you end up, you know, you've got 100 jobs on the system that you're never going to fill. So get rid of all the rubbish, start to work on qualified jobs where you know you've got commitment, qualify the candidates, make the deal happen, because it's a numbers game. So if you're picking up jobs, good jobs, qualified jobs, you have a significantly better chance of making it through. But people just they just get lost in the rabbit in the headlights. Like, well, hold on a minute, I was talking to candidates the other day, Yeah, the market's changed. It's gone that way. So, get with it. That's the trick.
How much patience do you apply to people in terms of
Personally, I don't have a lot of patience, but you have to have patience. I mean, at the end of the day, 3 months in, you would hope someone starts to generate money. I mean, the real, the truth of the matter is it takes a long time to get ROI on a graduate. What's your alternative? You hire experienced people. Well, you can't find them, and 50% of them don't work out. So you have to do both. You have to have some academies with graduates because that's your future build. And you try to slot in some experienced people and hope that they come in, and do what they say they're going to do. Or you don't grow. But if you don't grow, your natural attrition of people leaving are just going to cut your company down anyway. So you've got to keep moving all the time, even through a recruitment recession. So time to bill, it gets longer in a bad market. It does in a good market. But, if you have a good performance management process where you say, look, at this point, you really should be doing some deals. And if you're not, a lot of other companies will just literally go, oh, my God, let's cut the costs. Let's get rid of loads of people. Or you say, look, we'll take you through a training program, performance management, month on month to get you to where you want to be. If you're not getting to where you want to be after 2 or 3 months, we have to part company. This is, we're in sales. This is what we do. But yeah, it's frustrating. But half the people emerge like, oh my God, I get it. I can do this. And half of them don't. That's just recruitment. It's tough. But you give people enough time, but not too much.
So you're talking about, so you're going into that recession, you're like, everyone's on a, depending on where they already are, if you go into performance management, we're talking a couple of months to get through it. And like you say, it depends on how they react to that.
Yeah. And as I say, when you get, first thing we did, we put 15 people on performance management immediately because the statistics going back weren't good enough to make it through the market. And, with any company, you've got 300 people in a company, 500 people or whatever. You have to go through a moment where you say, if we lose 30% of our staff, we're going to save the other 70%. It's not, no one wants to do anything, but, you can't carry through a recession. Otherwise, you'll pull the whole thing down.
Yeah. And
that's what people have to understand. And it's tough.
And again, I mean, look, employees are going to see it from their perspective, and I get it. We've all been employees at some point.
Absolutely.
This show's about being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, and you have to make those decisions. There's things you have to do, and you don't expect everyone's going to agree or understand, but
I'm sure they don't. But I mean, you enter into a contract. You're in sales. You're not working for a social media company. You're not working for a bank who have huge balance sheets. The trouble with what we do is, if you can, one theory is you back the people you have, because the cost to replace people once the recession's over, arguably, is more than it is to keep people in your fold. No, we can work on this. We can do this. We can do this. I've got you. It depends how long the recession is. It depends how much money you've got. You might have enough money for 3 months, 6 months. You might have a balance sheet from hell, and you can do it for 2 years. Every single company is different in different points.
What do you think is the sweet spot in terms of having enough cash, but not sitting on too much that you're not investing it and growing it?
Well, I mean, an established company, and I'm talking, 7 to 10 year company, should have enough contractor base and enough firepower and be run efficiently enough with a decent balance sheet to be able to ride through any recession. But a startup, 0 to 3, even 5 years, does not have that luxury. It just doesn't have it. You don't quite have enough contractors margin to cover your costs. That's where you get to. So you're relying on perm. And if perm goes, you run out of cash. What's your choice? You put more money in, you go get more investors, or do you cut costs to what your revenue is to try and, even you don't care about making money, you just don't want to lose money. You lose cash fast when perm goes in a startup because it is your oxygen. And that's the trick.
Did you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, we lost 800,000 quid in 3 months.
How does that make you feel?
Poorer.
True. But I don't think money's ever been your biggest worry. You'll work it out, David.
It's really funny. Yeah, but you have to put it into context. You know, if a few months before you were making 200,000 quid a month, and then you go to losing 200,000 quid a month, but you're right sizing the business. I mean, we cut £1 million quid off the cost base immediately to level the business to the place it should be, and then you trade out of it. You know, I mean, you don't actually have a choice. You have to. You know, either whether it's your money or it's the investors' money, you have to go and make it work. But because I've been through it before, I know what happens at the other end. You know, if you get through it and you get with a core team and they're all really good recruiters, you can then build really quickly again and get back up to where you want to be against a backdrop of people who have lost their confidence. You know, because the other side of it is phenomenally lucrative.
Where do you think we're at now? So
that's a really good question.
We're now in May. We're at end of May 23. So we're talking about September, October, November, 4 months. So the best part of 10 months here now.
Well, I think Jan, Feb were awful.
Yeah.
I think March was a real big improvement. We had a phenomenal March. April, I mean, in the UK, I mean, can we have any more bank holidays? I mean, it's looking like 4-day week. I mean, and everyone takes their holiday to get a load of holidays. It just destroys businesses.
Some people do you know when people do the whole because I started my business March the 1st. So we did that March to end of Feb for the first couple of years of it's been our revenue year.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated every minute because you start the year in March and it's good. And then by the second month of the first quarter, everyone's like, well, it's Easter now, buggering off.
Well, you have good months. You know, good quarters and bad quarters. Every quarter in recruitment, there'll be a bad month. So, you know, any quarter. So March is always good. It's a long month. You get loads of contract revenue. You got lots of deals, lots of start dates for perm. It's great. April collapsed. May looking okay. June looking amazing. You know, and ask a question. I don't know. I know it's not as bad as it was in Jan, but it's not as good as it was. I don't think it will be as good as it was last year in a frothy market. It's normalizing very slowly. And that is where I think we are. But yeah, it was short and sharp and been annoyingly long. Yeah.
Well, the US, I've had completely mixed reviews. Some people say the US has not felt it anywhere near. Others have said it's been a lot harsher over there.
I guess it depends what sector you're in. I mean, they could have done without a couple of big banks going down in California.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing is, our sector is relatively protected because it doesn't really go through sort of cyclical recessions or boom and bust. However, it's all about confidence. And also, don't forget, people overhired last year. I mean, people hiring like crazy. And now they're digesting those hires. You know, projects don't stop. They get put on hold. In a bad tech recession, 2000, everything stopped. This is nothing stopping. It's just a bit more conservative. And I think that's the difference. And I think people are just starting to get the confidence back. Or it could tip the other way. I mean, they're so fragile economies.
Well, it's looking at your own business. The way you've made decisions is what your clients are doing, right? They're just protecting their own cash.
Well, it's knock-on effects, you know. Yeah. I mean, it definitely started with the tech companies shedding 250,000 jobs very quickly. And then everybody else says, what do they know that we don't know? You know, what's going on? This, you know, and then everyone just slows down, and then they're slowing down. So recruitment companies slow down, you know, the whole thing. And when you add into things like, you know, cost of living crisis and, you know, inflation, there's some headwinds still in business, particularly in the UK and not so much in Europe and America. It literally depends in what sector you are. Some sectors are good, but America is the most resilient country in the world for bouncing back because they're just so upbeat. You know, they don't suffer from like UK depression.
Well, that is definitely an issue over here right now. I mean, the weather's been good for the last week. But up until
I know. There's the sunshine. You should do lots of deals, right?
It's a real spring on record, mate. I mean, I was waking up thinking it's raining again, and I'm like, and you talk to someone and they're miserable, and you're like, oh bloody hell, come on, cheer up. But no, you're right. How often have you? I'm actually going to New York next week, which I'm excited about.
Oh, my favorite city.
I'm going to New York, and then I'm going to Peru.
Nice. Never been.
My brother's just had a baby in Peru. He met a Peruvian woman in Costa Rica, and he's had a baby.
That's great. Living life.
Can't wait. Yeah, I'm excited to go out there. What? How often are you in the US? How often are you going out to see Dan and the team?
I've been out to LA once every 3 months.
Right.
I go out there. We're looking at opening a New York office, so we're working quite hard on trying to get that open. We need to be in East Coast. We're looking at some other places in Europe. So it's starting. It's more about planning a strategy now, getting the correct funding in place, and starting to now think about the big build again. So, which is why we committed to another 60 graduates now in the next 12 months, building on our management team, getting everyone trained up, just sort of getting ready for growth again.
So you feel like the biggest hit could have been had, and it's slowing down. I mean, you're not naive enough to think it's done, but it could swing again. But the chances are we could be slightly moving towards.
Yeah, they tend not to last too long. I mean, that they have a time limit, and there is a point when people do need to get going and hire again and start to get projects going. Otherwise, this is a sort of death spiral. Yeah. And I don't think we're at that point. There is a feeling that there is, investment, there's projects. At the end of the day, we're in life sciences. They have to develop drugs to make people live longer. You can't, and also you can't just stop clinical trials because So there is business. What I'm trying to say is there is business. It's just you have to work a lot harder to find it. And that is the problem with staff that have worked in a particularly good market. That was the turning point. It wasn't particularly the market. You can still find business. It's just how willing you are to really get down to it.
What's your day-to-day like in London? Like, how are you? Have you changed at all since it's got a bit more difficult?
I think I'm more hands-on. Yeah, I think I'm more in the detail of the business. I'm much more analytical, but also, I have to go out and raise money as well to fund the growth. So, one hat is investors looking for, a decent investor with a big enough, deep enough pocket to put enough money in to say, okay, let's go and open 10 offices. Let's get to 500 people. It costs money. And half of my job is to ensure that things like, processes are correct, making sure that, we are on top of every minutiae of the business to squeeze everything out of it, costs, revenue, clients, there's a lot to do. And particularly in a market where maybe your management team, not your entire management team, isn't skilled in this particular market.
Yeah.
It's pretty full on.
And how big is your management team now?
We have 9 managers now.
Right.
In different levels of skill. 2 really good directors, great FD. We got a fairly solid team. We do have a lot of people who are inexperienced.
And when you talk about going out and raising money,
yeah,
is that just for the speed of what you want to do? Because if
we don't need to raise money, but it just accelerates growth. I mean, most recruitment companies, I guess, just sort of take 10 to 20 years to do what they need to do. If you're trying to compact it, trying to sort of be, a fast growing recruitment company, you will eat money. So therefore your choice is, do you bring in investors? Do you give them equity? What's the mix of, investors, and going back to what we were talking about, my job is to create value for shareholders, and most of my staff are shareholders. I'm not doing it predominantly for me. I'm doing it for the good of the company. So all the decisions are made, sometimes look harsh, but they are to protect the business, and I think, getting investors in, how much equity do you want to give away? How do you cut the deal? You don't want to get raised too much that you don't need. You don't want to raise too little that you can't, it's a tricky game, particularly now, raising investment now when you're sort of flatlining a bit. It's not easy.
People
but persuading them that the upside is now coming, that's the trick.
People will want a bigger piece of the pie, right? If it's like
not a good time to sell equity. Yeah.
So what is the future then? We're going to detail the ideal scenarios out of what you want. Let's go into the minute detail.
Well, it's fairly clear for us. We're, as a management team, we sat down, we put the strategy together, which is, client strategy, which is really important because, you have to ensure that, you're not bunched up in one place, because when the recruitment recession hit September, October, we were a little bit bunched up in what's called CROs, which are the subcontracting companies to the big pharma companies. So we need to de-risk that now. You're looking at percentages across all of your little sectors within your main sector. So that's your sort of strategy piece. Then you mesh over geographic. So where are we going to work? UK, Germany, Switzerland, US, and then you kind of mesh over your academies and your management. And once you've got all those 3 all together, you kind of have your plan, and your plan is relatively, bulletproof, and you kind of stick to it. So we've gone through that process, rebudgeted as everyone has, and now ready for that next push.
As a recruitment organization, running payroll can be hard. Between pressure from worker volume and client demands, plus the compliance risks and time lost to manual process back office teams, it's all a struggle. To help, Vincere, our sponsor, have teamed up with Fast Track to offer a seamless integration for recruitment and staffing organizations, enabling better workflow between the front and back office. This new integration automates time and pay interpretation with a built-in comprehensive rules engine that can interpret complex awards and agreements across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. The results are startling. You can reduce admin in your organization by 85%. You can lower your per cost timesheet and get paid faster. So, revolutionize your back office processes with the Vincere and Fast Track integration. Learn more at vincere.io/rag. Right, let's get back into the show. So what are you going to try and achieve? So you've got, at the moment, it's just London and LA, right?
London and LA. We will be opening in New York. We're going to open in Germany and Switzerland, Oxford, Cambridge, probably go down to Miami, and maybe Boston, and that's it. Yeah.
Right. Why Oxford and Cambridge?
It's like a life science hub. They're investing, 500 million quid in office space to do clinical trials and things. So it's a nice little, not big offices, like satellites, but it's where all the clients are if you want client visits and, sort of really getting deep under the skin of it.
Right. And it wouldn't make sense to just serve that from London?
You can, but if you have a presence there, I mean, if you go way back to Huntry stage, we had 27 offices all around the M25. Yeah. If you're there, you definitely get more business out of them because you're sort of very client facing. And also you find people who live there. It's cheaper to live in London. It's a nice pace of life. You do find people who want to live in those places because London's becoming prohibitively expensive to work and live in.
No, 100%. 100%. So again, you're leaning heavily in the UK, and US and Europe. Are you not going to look at the Far East? Is there nothing out in Asia?
No. I think if we do some kind of private equity deal or even a trade deal, I think we'd leave that for the next investor to go. I mean, I did Far East, as you know, with Spencer Ogden, and we opened Singapore, Hong Kong, 2 offices in Australia, Indonesia. I mean, it's not a massive life science hub over there, to be honest with you.
No. What about in the Middle East? I would have thought there'd be quite a lot. Or in
I'm not a massive fan of doing business in the Middle East.
No.
I had a Dubai office for many years and couldn't really make it work.
Right.
Even though we're in oil and gas, rather ironically. Not a massive fan. Where we are the main hubs anyway in life sciences. I mean, if you conquer those, you get to 500, 700 recruiters in those markets, then yes, you move out.
When do you want to be at that point where you're saying you're like?
Well, as I say, it sort of puts back a year, so I guess it's another 4 years because it was 4 years minus 1.
You get to 4 years, you're at that point. What does that mean for you personally?
Well, I think, so I keep sort of trying to explain that deal is predominantly my deal and a bit of their deal, but the next deal is their deal. So if I explain, private equity comes in, they value the business for X. I'm the majority shareholder, but the staff have a really good shareholding. Yeah. Private equity companies are brilliant the way they construct it. So basically, they don't want me around. I'm too expensive. I'm too old, and they're sort of, well done, pat me on the back, and did a great job in the startup. But we've grown up to run the company now. And then the management team then get given free equity in the new vehicle, and the next deal is their deal. So they might make £1 million in this deal, but they could make 10 million in the next deal. And that's the game. And they're all 30 to 35. I'm 52. So their deal is next one, but they'll get some decent, so it just keeps going. A deal is not the end. The deal is almost the start for many people.
Well, let's say you get to 55, 56 and you do this deal. What then though? I don't believe you're done. I don't think you're sitting in your I don't think you're in Ibiza and just chilling.
I would like a life, by the way.
I think you're too energetic, Dave. I think
listen, it might take 7 years, it might take 10 years. You only do a deal because you got pressure for everybody that wants to do a deal. I couldn't care less if we sell the company. I'd like to. I'd like the staff to get something decent out of it. I'd like to get some money out of it. But for me, when a business gets bigger and you make lots of money in it, you do really cool things with it. It's a great. I'm not in any desperate need. However, my life has changed. I have a new partner. I have a new life. I wouldn't mind spending a bit more time. I spent 25 years at the coalface driving two businesses to 100 million.
Yeah.
This is my third. It's pretty taxing.
I think you'll.
I don't know anything else, by the way. I have no hobbies.
I was at an event with Russell Clements on Friday. He's going to come on the show.
Oh, I like Russell. He's really good.
But again, I mean, he's got a place in Ibiza like you, and he's got London and Suffolk, I think he said. And he's coming on soon. But again, you can tell he's still interested. He's still, he's got his fingers
like
in
a drug, right? It never leaves you.
He's investing in, rec tech, and he probably doesn't work. He doesn't work full time in any way. But
no, I mean, you end up becoming an investor, don't you?
Yeah.
The other side of the recruitment cycle is that you sort of invest in bright young things, and there is that avenue. I mean, you don't just stop, as you say, and go and sit in your house in Ibiza. The opportunity arises. I mean, look at AI. What a great opportunity to see what impact that might have in recruitment. We're at the forefront of chatbot, and we're looking at how it can sort of strip a CV, put it into a nice content to send to a client. I mean, there's stuff that's coming through that is, that would be very interesting to see how that manifests itself in recruitment.
Are you looking at that now in terms of what you can do?
Yeah. I think it'd be sort of silly not to, really. At the minute, it's fairly rudimentary. It will sort of help you do certain things, but as it speeds up and gets exponentially brighter, it's either going to be a help or a massive danger. I think now it's a help.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a worry coming in the future. I think not for a long time. I mean, I watched a video the other day about how they brought back Kanye. Well, they put Kanye West on a track now that he was not involved in, so they can take your voice, they can sample your voice, they can type a script, anyone can just read the script and then they'll overplay it with someone else's voice. Yeah. Which I thought, fuck. So they're going to bring back. They reckon there'll be new albums for like Luther Vandross and Whitney Houston. People that are dead are going to bring out new albums, right?
That's the fun stuff, right? The dark side of it is, are we the most stupid race in eternity to create something smarter than us?
Well, probably, yeah.
I mean, it's fundamentally like pretty idiotic to create something so much faster and smarter than us that it will leave us, just for dead. I mean, as it gets. I mean, imagine if you could actually absorb the entire of Google and compute it and use that as a weapon. I mean, we're finished. I mean, once it gets to that point, what do you need biological humans for?
Well, I think like the next phase will be things like, how much of a recruiter's job will be done by AI. I mean, I don't think it'll ever take over fully unless the jobs are done by AI as well. Let's say, if you.
Well, I've always said, technology will basically be able to do very simple matching and very simple. It will be, sad to say, but when they talk about 300 million jobs lost in the world, it's effectively jobs that computers or robots or AI can do. Can they do complex negotiation, nuances in body language? No. May they in the future? Probably. But right now, if you have a very well-paid, very technical job that requires not just a technical ability, but human interaction, and you've got an agent that has to negotiate the complexities of that, and no, I'd say. No, but if you're looking for a programmer who just programs a certain code and nobody cares what they look like, what they talk like, or what they are, probably yes, fundamentally. So AI will have its part, and I think you're right. It will be AI to AI first, and then it will just sort of grow from there. But I think it's a threat. I do think it's a threat.
It's something to think about, isn't it? And stay abreast of. I think one thing I got from the room, because it was all about AI on Friday, it was at the Power Hive event in Manchester. It was great. Right. But I did feel a bit of fear in the room. Like the more you talk about it, the more you see people's eyes just fill with a bit of like dread. And you're like, this.
But I mean, even the smartest people on the planet doesn't know what it's doing. I mean, that's the terrifying bit. They're creating something they don't understand. And that is just not cool. You hope governments will bring something in that will sort of control it. But I don't know. I think it's probably the biggest existential threat to humanity ever. No, but it could be good. Who knows? Might improve our lives.
We'll see. Hopefully you'll have done the deal by then anyway. You'll be sipping sangria on I don't know, Santa Eulalia.
Or investing in AI, who knows?
Yeah. So right now, if we summarize the conversation, now, the signs are normalizing and slightly improving. Going back, since we last had the first interview, the reality is it has been a difficult time. And I think
very challenging.
I think it's what's been really refreshing about this, David, is, look, I think one of the themes from a lot of the episodes with people like yourself is that growth, grow, right? And it's all about, some high growth stories and the exits and the 100 millions and all that. It's brilliant, but it's not always common to get someone come on and go, it's been fucking hard, right? We've done things at the wrong time.
So people need to know that we're all in the same boat. Every single recruitment company in the world, bar none, has had a challenging 6 months.
Yeah.
And they might tell you they haven't, but they're lying. They have. Fundamentally, post-COVID, overhiring, and there's been a sequence of events that have mean people have been much, much more conservative about their hiring, and actually everyone, as long as you realize it. I mean, part of the best thing about it is understanding it and seeing how your business can improve as a result of it. But to deny it is the worst thing you can do. You know what? It's been tough, really tough, really, really, really hard work. However, yes, normalizing, getting back to it, and the trick is not to lose your confidence on the way out.
That's my final question then. For anyone who's going through this, how do you stay positive and confident and calm and not succumb to it? Like, especially when you're losing, I don't know if it's 1,000, 100,000 or 200,000, doesn't matter. When you're losing money, you got people that are worried, you got an unhappy ship, you got client demand dropping. What can you do, or what do you do personally to stay in the same mindset or in a fighter mindset?
You draw from an enormous pool deep down inside you to ensure that you keep confidence in the market. You make sure your team have confidence while you're making decisions that they don't like. It's very tough. It's easy to run a recruitment company on the way up. Everyone's got, the culture's great, everyone's happy, you're going to Ibiza, everyone's great, everyone's making money. This is the time when you see how good you are. You see how good your staff are, and you see how good you are, because you are coming into work and you are basically saying, it's really tough, but we need to, work as a team, and we need to see the positivity in this, not the negativity. Otherwise, we're all going to drag ourselves down. And you find individuals within your team, you find individuals on your sales floor, you find it from yourself, and you're grouping together and you recreate that kind of culture. But it is not easy. It's one of the most challenging things in the last 25 years I've ever done. Is when you get to this point. Happened to Spencer Ogden when the oil price crashed. We lost 100 people in 3 months. Wow. But then we did the business across other sectors and engineering. My God, that was the toughest thing I've ever done. And this is challenging, but I do feel we are seeing, some shiny lights coming up, which is good. But it's been a dredge, to be honest. It's been boring.
I get it. But it can't all be grow. It has to be, this is the reality of being a business owner. David. The
good thing is recessions only happen once every sort of 5 to 7 years. So it's good to get it out of the way. I wouldn't have liked to have gone into this when you're trying to sell the business or raise, this is once you get it out of the way, it's done. You've got another 5 years straight ahead.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, eh? Let's hope we're on the way out of this. David, thanks so much for your time, mate. You're a busy man. Really appreciate you taking the time for us. If anyone does want to reach out, dropping you a LinkedIn or dropping you an email, is that okay? If they want,
cool. Yeah, happy to help. Yeah,
you're a star, David. Catch up soon.
Okay. Great speak, Sean. Take care.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.